There was one number that Senator Hill didn't mention, and that is 2. And that is the number of votes we have for this budget, me and Senator Hill. We've been talking about how we're probably building a 2-vote budget here because, with reality, the closer we get together, the further away we get from our caucuses. I mean, we've had that issue, So Senator Nelson and I are here because we want to advance the budget process. I think that it's clear it has been a bipartisan process. We have been working together in probably the most open and inclusive way that I think has ever built a budget. I mean, there's no doubt about that. You have to remember, however, that they're in charge, okay? When the majority flip, they're in charge. So I say, I would like to get this, and he nods, yes, okay, we'll put that in. It's not like it's a tie here somehow, okay? So we need to remember that. So a couple of years ago, when Senator Murray and Senator Zarelli worked on a bipartisan process, that was really the first time in ever that had happened. And that was a big deal. It was a historic budget that came to the Senate floor. So earlier this year, after the majority flipped, Senator Hill and I met to see if maybe we could do something similar. And we agreed that it would probably be better to try to negotiate some of this out instead of have purely a 25-24 vote or fight on the floor. So now we're going to see whether we succeeded in that strategy. So I guess, we've had a bipartisan process. At beginning of session, I mentioned that just having a coalition with a couple of Democrats in it probably necessarily wasn't bipartisan. But how was it going to work? Well, the process has been bipartisan up to now. Whether it's a bipartisan budget, you'll have to wait till we see the floor votes and see whether it actually is bipartisan or not. But we're here because we're still working to make progress. I'd like to say a couple of other things, and that is that, if we'd written the budget on our own, there are things we wouldn't have cut in this budget. There are things, the ABD hen stuff in particular is I think, really problematic. I believe that Working Connections needs an additional subsidy, or we're going to start to lose more of our child care. And in order to fix that, we have basically, from my perspective, kind of scraped every corner that we could to get there with only the addition of the hospital safety net and Medicare expansion as far as added resources into this budget. So to get the rest of the way, I think it's clear there's going to need to be some additional revenue come onto the table. Or we won't be here and out in 105. I'm sorry. I mean, July, I don't know when we might get out of here. But I'm certainly working in good faith to try to get there, is the point. We have continued negotiations to go. We had some bottom lines, too, going into this. One, where we needed to have at least $1 billion in McCleary. There's $1 billion in McCleary in this budget. We're also, I love this, we're up over our eyeballs in Obamacare in this budget. Medicaid expansion, we played the exchange on some of our public employees that are part-time, thinking they might get better health care in the exchange, and it saves us money in the budget. I think we've kept the faith with our middle-class workers by ratifying their union contracts in this. It was very important to us. And assistance for needy families in the TANF program, there was no additional cuts there. That was very important to us, too. So there was a number of bottom lines we had. We felt we met the bottom lines. We still think there's some issues to go forward on. I don't remember, frankly, agreeing on the 3% tuition cut, but anyway, we might have to discuss that one later. So I think there's a little bit of editorial comment maybe on both sides here. But I think it's important to know that we're here moving forward still, and we recognize we have a constitutional responsibility to do a budget, and we have to get a budget out so that there's something that can be worked on, and that's why we're here working on this today. So I assume